And without further ado, I'm going to go right into our agenda. It's a very simple agenda today. We have Shri Doristan, hopefully I said your name right, Shri, from New York City, Department of Environmental Protection, affectionately known as its acronym, DEP, followed by Pam Pettijohn and Georgiana Deese from the Coney Island Beautification Project. So Shri, take it away.
All right, I am going to pull up the presentation. Hold 1 second.
Shri, you're muted again, so hopefully, there we go. Shri, we can see your screen, but we can't hear you if you're speaking. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. I'm sure we'll be able to sort this out very soon. There seemed to we lost Shri's audio when she connected and shared her screen, so I can see that she's working on it. We may, if it doesn't work, Shri, we may have to come up with a plan B. So we may ask you to stop sharing your screen. And we'll share. Oh, that sounds, hello. Are you calling in for the presentation? I'm going to put you on mute for our caller, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try this again, Shri. Well, we can definitely see your screen, but we can't hear you anymore, unfortunately.
Jill, did you unmute Shri's line? She might have to unmute.
I've unmuted her, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
Can you turn off the audio on your computer so we don't get that echo?
Yes, I just did that. I'm so sorry, guys, for the slight technical difficulties. And is my screen still projected?
Yes,
Okay, so you're waiting on me to start, correct, still?
yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry for that. So jumping right in, today, I'm meeting, I have another colleague in the conference room with me, Sarah Pecker, meeting to discuss a little bit about the Harbor Protectors Program. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with all of you today. All right. Oops. So basically, many know that the city received its first municipal separate storm sewer system, which is known as MS4 Permit, in 2015. We received it in August 1st of 2015, and this was the city's first comprehensive CD's permit, basically targeting pollution here in the city. So an estimated 30 to 40% of New York City is served by the city's MS4 area. And so the city estimates the MS4 area to be approximately 49.5% impervious, which means water resistant areas, 4.1% of semi-pervious, 45% of pervious, and 1.4% of open water. So this is just to give you an estimate of, like, these are our the city's MS4 area. We welcome you to go to our website, our webpage, which is also at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to look around, we have an interactive map where you can actually type your address in to see exactly if you are in the city's MS4 area. So basically, as many of you know, the city has two different types of sewer systems. We have combined sewer system, which is here, pictured at the top left, where both wastewater and stormwater are carried by one pipe to our wastewater resource recovery facility. And then we have our municipal separate storm sewer system, our MS4, which we have a pipe that is carried directly to the local water body. So we use these two graphics in our reports, which you've probably seen online. These are quite popular in our presentations that we give to the public. So I have a little image here because a lot of people like stormwater runoff, and we say it all the time, but it's a matter of, sometimes seeing it, right? So stormwater runoff occurs when rain, snow, sleet, and other precipitation lands on impervious surfaces like rooftops, parking lots, and streets and sidewalks. So here, oops, I think it took me out. Didn't want to play it for some reason. Yeah, I didn't want to play it for some reason. It kicked me off. I think it may be a firewall here in our conference room. It may be a firewall, but basically, yeah, it's just an image, a video of it raining, and the stormwater is, as it rains and it's falling over, these impervious surfaces, the streets, the roofs, and it's falling down, it's going into our that catch basin there. So approximately 63% of New York City is impervious area. So, eventually, as the previous graphic showed, this stormwater runoff will reach a catch basin, as you see here in this image, and it's going to go directly to the sewer system. So basically from my perspective, I serve as a stormwater management program coordinator in the Bureau of Environmental Planning and Analysis. And as I mentioned when I first started, we received a comprehensive MS4 permit August 1st of 2015. The permit is it's a renewal every 5-year cycle. However, due to the pandemic, our permit has been delayed. We've done our negotiations with the state, and we are currently, the state has did a public comment period on the renewal permit, and we're waiting now for that permit to be finalized. So we've been operating, even though, you know, it's what, 2 years, we're in 2022, our renewal permit was supposed to renew in 2020, but due to the pandemic, it was delayed. So we will soon, hopefully, get our, you know, our new permit. However, you know, as I mentioned, the permit intent is to require the city to implement measures to reduce pollution and stormwater runoff. That's like the main idea of what this permit, you know, is what we're enforcing. The permit requirement, the major permit requirement is to develop a stormwater management program, which we did. We put forth a stormwater management program plan, which is also on our webpage. The image here is the cover of that plan. It's available for download on our webpage. And when we submitted it to the state, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, we sent it in on August 1st of 2018 in accordance to the deadline. And we received an approval of that plan on March 14th of 2019. So, you know, from that submittal and approval, we then are required to submit annual reports, you know, just showing the progress of our implementation of the swamp plan. So the stormwater management program plan has many different types of program requirements. Sorry about that. It has many different types of program requirements, about 12 to be exact. And the reason why, I mean, we're here today to talk about harbor protectors, and I actually serve as the public education technical lead from my bureau, and I work very closely with Sarah Pecker, Mikkel Adgate, and others in our Bureau of Public Affairs and Communication. So therefore, you know, because, you know, our BPAC, our Bureau of Public Affairs and Communications, are the ones who are always, you know, at our public meetings and doing a lot of outreach. So we work very closely with them on our public education outreach and public involvement, which are the two of the first key elements of the MS4 permit. So the public education and outreach program aims to provide information to the public and target audience about, you know, some of these impacts of stormwater discharges on our water bodies here in New York City, pollutants of concern, actions to reduce pollutants, trying to get the word out, more and more MS4 materials out so that people are aware of ways to report illicit discharges and water quality issues, and then the hazards that are associated with these illicit discharges. So based on our public meeting since we, you know, received approval for this from the state and really looked at what the city has, because the city, you know, already had many different types of programs that they, you know, many different types of outreach that they were already doing. And I say city just to kind of harp on, you know, even though DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, we are the administrator of the permit, there are other city agencies such as DSNY and DOT and NYPD, Department of Corrections. There are other agencies that are also required to comply with the MS4 permit. So when we typically, you know, when we go to a public meeting, we're not just speaking on behalf of DEP. We do have programs, you know, and things that we all do separately to comply, but you know, we have over 13, I believe, agencies that are all obligated to comply with the MS4 permit. So we kind of, all of the agencies, you know, we meet regularly. Well, especially during the developmental stages of the swamp plan, getting together the swamp plan pieces, we met regularly to really look at, okay, what are the things that we have and how can we enhance the programs that we already have to comply with this permit and, you know, doing the maximum extent practicable for this permit effort. So this is sort of how, you know, going to our public meetings, we solicit public feedback. We, you know, provide public comment periods on all of the different reports we do. So we've been super transparent in our efforts to comply with the permit and to ensure that we're getting feedback from the public. Our environmental organizations here in New York City are very active and have, you know, served on our Stormwater Advisory group when we met with them regularly. So from those meetings, there was one comment, and I can't remember exactly which environmental organization that suggested it at the moment. We have it recorded, but basically saying, oh, we should do some sort of stenciling effort. You know, a lot of cities do stenciling, so it was like, a stenciling effort to get the word out, right? And Pamela, Miss Pettyjohn, she'll definitely chime in on that as well. But so this is what got us, you know, when we go to our public meetings and we get a lot of feedback from the public, we're recording and we take it back and we, you know, include these questions and the city's responses in each report that's published on our webpage. So from that suggestion, that got us, we're like, okay, that is on our to-do list. We would love to do a stenciling type of effort, stewardship program for New York City. So therefore, we kept, you know, it was on our to-do list. There was another environmental organization that actually did some stenciling that we, you know, so we knew that this was something we wanted to do, and we finally brought this program into fruition. We finally brought it with the help of the Coney Island Beautification Project. And I mean, it sort of happened very fast. We had lots of research and, you know, looking at other municipalities across the nation that had actually done a program similar. We wanted to make it unique to New York, so we came up with harbor protectors. And so harbor protectors, for those that aren't fully aware of what we are, you know, what we do, are environmental stewards that volunteer to keep our neighborhoods clean and pollution out of the waterways. Participants sign up for one or more or 4 activities that support our stormwater management efforts. So basically for harbor protectors, that's clearing off catch basin gratings. Like if there's, you know, a certain area that a volunteer is interested in, then we would map everything, and then you will know exactly what your assignment, like what your area of concern is. You would go out and clear off the catch basin gratings, or you may want to stencil, but you wouldn't want to stencil a catch basin, of course, if it's not, you know, if it's visible litter and debris all over it. So, you know, those two efforts kind of go hand in hand, clearing off the catch basin grating and then stenciling that catch basin. And then caring for rain gardens is another, you know, activity that our harbor protectors do. And then participating in shoreline cleanups, which we're getting a lot more requests this year than we did last year, of course, because of the pandemic and so forth. So basically, many people ask, you know, what exactly is a rain garden? And of course, a rain garden is a GI practice designed to collect, treat, and infiltrate stormwater runoff. And that's basically what it is. But it's a lot, that's what it is, but there's a lot that goes into the maintenance part of it. So this is just basically an image of a rendering of a rain garden. As you can see, things that we see every day, right? You can see the sewer manhole in the street. You can see the catch basin here with the open curb inlet there. You can see how the rain garden has a little, like, what do you call it? A little inlet here where you have the overflow that goes directly towards the catch basin for collection. So it kind of, like, this image sort of tells the story. But the goal is for this rain garden to collect this, you know, treat, like it said, collect, treat, and infiltrate the stormwater runoff. So then there's like, okay, how do we actually maintain and care for these rain gardens? And these tasks include, you know, clearing litter and sediment, clearing the inlet and outlet, weeding. You know, some of these things are seasonal. That's what the asterisks are for. You know, we wouldn't want to go prune, you know, when it's not pruning season. Also replanting as well. So those are the common tasks that are involved with maintaining the rain garden. So here you can see, you know, what is a catch basin? I'm missing some of my text here. Sorry about that. What is a catch basin? Catch basins are conveyance systems that are designed to drain excess rainwater, rain and groundwater from impervious surfaces. So as you saw in the previous image where the catch basin was off to the side of the rain garden, is basically capturing all of the runoff from these impervious surfaces and collect the stormwater. So the picture on the left shows like a more, you know, like how it looks on the inside. What bothers me, I think, from just, you know, working in environmental management is actually seeing how some people think catch basins, for some reason, they think catch basins are like underground garbage cans. So it's like, you know, you see them and it's like a collection of just so much different, you know, like garbage, you know, that actually, you know, has to be cleaned out and maintained. So this is another reason why we, you know, really just love the idea of bringing this program to fruition and having, like, you know, because sometimes people need a reminder. So to see a stencil with educational information on it about, do not, you know, waste, do not, you know, this is not a garbage can. Like those little reminders are helpful because some people literally just don't know, you know, so having that education and outreach there has been really key. So here's another video, and because I have a firewall block, it's not going to allow me to play it for this presentation, but I'll be sure to, you know, make sure that it's circulated to the group so that you can see it. It's also on our webpage. But basically, it just takes you through how we set up, how to stencil catch basin, things that we include when we go out, you know, like the cones to make sure, you know, we're safe, the spray paint, our drop cloth, and so forth. So here, I just want to bring up the Harbor Protectors launch. This is when we actually launched the program. Along with the Coney Island Beautification Project. And here's images of how we set up that day. It was an amazing day. We were super excited and we got a lot of good feedback. Because this was our first actual day of launching the program, of course, we've gotten some very helpful feedback about how we can make the next event even better. You know, we've gotten feedback from teachers, we've gotten feedback from environmental organizations wanting to even help us, you know, like get the word out even more. So basically, these are our 4 stencils that we designed with the help of a graphical designer. And we've gotten really great feedback. And of course, most people really love the "This is not a trash can" stencil, right? That was one of our more popular ones. And the one on the left, the one that's just basically just the words. And we also got a lot of feedback on the "Only rain down the drain." We cut this image. I know if you look in the middle image here, you see the fish at the bottom, but because of sizing, you know, and trying to make the stencil more lightweight, we ended up cutting it. I mean, we still have the older one too, but just trying to make it more, especially when we have participants, young participants, wanting to have hands-on with our events as well. So we wanted to make it more easy to carry and use with younger students and so forth. So here's some additional images here from our event. And basically, I also include a link, you know, because a lot of people are like, well, how do I sign up? So we have a whole web page dedicated with information that I just, you know, went over that you could check out. In 2021, the city actually stenciled 158 catch basins, and we cleaned 137 rain gardens, and we planted at 9 rain gardens. And so we want to be able to do much more with the help of, you know, volunteers and kind stewards who really care for New York City and want to see it be a cleaner city with less pollution. And so here's the link that takes you directly to our webpage. And I also provide the link that takes you to the Harbor Protectors Program page. And we just actually, within the last week and a half, now we have a dedicated email address where we've been getting, Sarah and her team is getting a lot of calls, and we're getting requests to come and, you know, participate in events. So this summer is going to be a busy one. And then we also have our general MS4 email address as well, where we get general comments and questions about MS4 if a person's in an MS4 area and so forth. Do we have any? I don't know whether, Jill, you want to stop for questions, or are we going to keep going?
We could stop for questions, and then we'll hear from the Coney Island Beautification Project about how this actually worked in their community and with their community members and with Ida. So if you have questions, if you could use the reaction button to raise your hand, or you could, I think I have to unmute you. So I could probably change that, but. And actually, Shri, you can stop sharing your screen. I think that will make it a little bit easier for me to see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
So you could also take yourself off.
Because we have
Yeah, Shri, if you could mute yourself, and then we'll unmute when. Okay. I don't see any questions. Sorry about that. We're getting some feedback. Shri, try to mute. Oh, I'm going to mute you and see what happens. Yeah, unfortunately, it's your connection there. Okay. Well, if you think of a question, you can put it in the chat, but we're going to go right ahead and start with Coney Island Beautification Project.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Pamela Pettyjohn, and I'm with Georgiana Deese. Georgiana Deese is the Administrative Director, and I'm the President of Coney Island Beautification Project, an environmental organization that came into existence to help our community respond to the huge impact of Superstorm Sandy. Our members lived through the devastation of this disastrous storm that had not happened within 100 years. Our small peninsula was completely destroyed, mostly by water. Coney Island is a community inhabited by over 60,000 residents, living in private homes, high-rises, night-shift buildings, nursing homes, and several adult residents. Many of the 60,000 are seniors, as this neighborhood is federally designated as a naturally occurring retirement community. Of course, this population comes with their own unique sets of complications. Sandy caught us once by surprise, but we must be prepared for the next large storm that will definitely come. We must be prepared to safely evacuate, shelter in place, and function after the fact. The lessons learned after Sandy must be critically examined and documented to adapt best practices to carry out the future weather calamities. As we prepare for whatever stance we take, we must encourage and take into account the observations of the residents. Immediately after Sandy, many reported an uneven distribution of resources. Coney Island Beautification members concluded that relief workers were unfamiliar familiar with the neighborhood. We step forward to assist our neighbors by seeking out means and reporting needs to authorities. A major lesson learned that we must be our first responders. And we will continue to learn and share information in helping our community become more a resilient community. We first were introduced to the MS4 permit in 2015. And yes, and we found it to be a little complicated. And we thought this was an important information for this community. And we asked DEP at the time, it was Mikhail Adgett, to come to Coney Island, and we would host workshops with the community so people could sit down, understand what the MS4 permit was. It was very unfamiliar for all of us. MS4 being the municipal separate storm sewer system, which is a permit that authorizes public entities such as cities, counties, transportation agencies, and military bases to discharge pollutants from public stormwater into U.S. waters, governed by the the Clean Water Act of 1972. Well, that was a lot. And to be able to understand how does this affect Coney Island, we started holding annual workshops with the community. And through these workshops in 2016, when DEP had their combined sewer overflow long-term control plan, they have very, very long titles for everything. But for Coney Island Creek, some of the input from the community were things like, one of the things that changed, a lot of the MS4 permit and the way DEP did business, like Cherie said, suggestions about stenciling. But one of the things that happened from some of these workshops were, when you see an outfall now, there's going to be a plaque with a number. And if you see a discharge during dry weather, then that's an illegal discharge, and you can just call 311 because each outfall now has its own unique numbering system. And so that's something that came from the meetings and the workshops we held in Coney Island. So when we were called, so this relationship that Coney Island residents and DEP had has been going on since 2015. I think the last meeting we had was just before the pandemic. It was in November of 2019. And we wanted to thank all the young people who went away to college, came back with all their expertise and sat on the panel, listened to our community and listened to the concerns. DEP was very, very attentive to when the community had, the residents of Coney Island said where there was flooding, why there was flooding, when there was flooding. When you listen to the community, these are the experts. These are people that have lived here for years, 50 years or more. They can tell you what's going to flood before it floods. They're going to tell you which way the water is going to flow. And DEP listened. And they were able to keep they kept keeping the storm drains cleaned out. I watched them, I saw them, and all the areas that we have reported that have been flooding over years and years, those areas had less of an impact when there was any rain. Coney Island is a community that will flood even when the sun is out, when the skies are blue. But we must say that when it came to Ida, we didn't notice a lot of flooding. There was no severe flooding, and we had to think about why. Well, one of the things was the Harbor Protectors Program. When DEP asked us to host this event and they wanted to roll out this new program, and they asked us to help them, we thought we were just elated. But we contacted all the schools in the community. We had over 200 students. I just remembered all of their faces and how excited they were to go and clean drains. This was their responsibility, to clean the drains, put these stencils down saying not to throw trash into the drains. And we've always talked to the community, when anyone that we could get to listen, about that kitchen table conversation. And what that kitchen table conversation were these young students cleaning the drains, putting the stencils saying, do not put your trash in the street, that it washes into our waterways. It must have taken effect, because I saw people that were not a part of that that initial event that we had on was last year for Earth Day, but they were picking up the garbage out of the storm drains, which I had not seen before. They would go out and pick up litter while it was raining from the storm drains, from the gutters. And you see a lot less trash in the storm, in the gutters and storm drains now since the program started in Coney Island. So when Ida hit, we were trying to figure what happened. Why was it a community that always floods? It has horrible flooding, even especially on the corner of 33rd and Neptune, where there's an elementary school, where the water has been so high during storms that they had to take children out of school like a bucket brigade and hand them from to one parent to the other, because the water would be so deep. But yet we didn't have flooding, not even in that area, because DEP, I would see them, I would see that truck come, and they would clean out those catch basins, and the young people in the community had stenciled the catch basins, not to put your trash in the streets or in the gutters. And that's the only difference between our community, an entire city that was underwater, and unfortunately people lost their lives. And we immediately put this together, that why was our community different? Why didn't we have severe flooding? And it was the only thing we could come up with was the work that DEP had been doing in the community, listening to the community members, finding out where the problems were repeatedly and cleaning them out, keeping them clean. And then the stenciling program, the harbor protector program, those stencils were people, I would see them stop on the corner to read, to see what it was. And I guess our students delivered that message as to what it was, why those storm drains were so important to keep clean, that it was going to keep our waters, our Coney Island Creek and our beaches, all the trash that goes into the gutter and goes into storm drains, it washes up into our waters. Now, most people don't know that, but we do. And how will we get that information out to the everyday person? I think that we have, and I think the program was extremely successful, and I'm so happy to hear that it's continuing. Georgie?
Well,
Georgie?
the only thing I have to add is to say that I concur with what President Pettyjohn said. I was amazed and pleased and so happy to see the launching of the stenciling program, and the young people that at the very end of the program, when we sent out thank you letters, we would say the title of the letter was, "And the children should lead the way." And it was beautiful to have the scholars be the teachers, and to explain exactly what DEP was conveying to the community. We are so proud of our students, and I just want to say thank you to DEP, and thank you for bringing in an elementary sort of way that people could understand, in a layman's position, that they could understand exactly what the MS4 program was all about. We live here. We didn't understand what all the acronyms meant, but we learned a lesson, and we thank the people from DEP for coming and explaining it to us. And I'm an elder, and I'm just not too old to learn, and it's great to continue to keep learning. And thank DEP for helping us to understand and teaching our children, so our children can go home and teach it to their parents. And when they walk down the street, they can feel a sense of pride that they are a part of making things better for the community. And we saw the results. We started listening about the waterways since the Sandy, and even before Sandy, when we had storms before Sandy, and we really started paying close attention. And the last point was the Ida, that when Ida came along, we saw a massive change, and we have to pay attention. And the lesson learned here is to pay attention to what we see, pay attention to what we've learned, and put our actions into motion, and really let the young people understand that climate change is not something that's going to happen in the future. Climate change is happening now, and they are a part of making sure that we are protected, and we are not just walking around with the foreboding thoughts of, oh, throwing up our hands and saying, what can we do? So thank you, DEP, and I guess that's it. Pam said it very well. Thank you. And thank you, Jill, for putting this together. Thank you, Jill, for putting this together. And thank you, Jill, for being and part of these workshops. She wasn't left out of these workshops. She was a participant in the workshop. So we want Jill to take your bows also. Thank you.
Thanks. Pam, did you have something else to add?
No, I was just going to say a special thanks to New York City Emergency Management for your continued support. Thank you so much,
What?
Jill and Sam.
Oh, wow. Thanks. It's a pleasure. And I picked up on a thing. I have maybe one question for Pam and Georgiana, and then I have a question for Shri. So for Pam and Georgiana, how long did it take? You did the outreach to the students, right? Okay, so how long,
Yes.
what was your timeline for that once you got the go-ahead from DEP?
Actually, we didn't have much time. Fortunately, we were very well. We were connected to the community, so it was like a two-week turnaround to set everything up. Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't much time.
That's not much time. That's not the preferred timeline. Just want to put that out there for any other
DEP did
communities
most of
that
the
might
heavy
be
lifting.
listening
They
in.
put the program together. But as far as they did all the heavy lifting, all we had to do was get the word out and bring everyone together, and it was very successful, and we had such a good time.
Right. And I think it really shows too that Coney Island is a very connected community with loads of what we call social capital, right? You're connected to your elected officials, you're connected to government agencies. You know, we really value your interconnection as well as your connection to the agencies. So my next question is actually for DEP, and I have a couple questions for DEP. Did you have to get permission from DOT to do the stenciling? Is that just something that's automatic and that's only done with your agency? And then what is the preferred number of volunteers that is needed to take on one of these events for other communities that might be listening?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there were, I'm not exactly sure on the permissions from DOT. I think there was clearance from DOT to host the event because, you know, of course, as I mentioned, there is an interagency team that everyone was aware, like we made sure we have a public education and outreach sub team. So we made sure we alerted, like, you know, our interagency team of the event. So there was communications with DOT, but I'm just not exactly sure of all how, you know, I know the commissioners and things like that were aware. BPAC made sure that the commissioner there at DOT and here at DP were aware of the event. So as far as, you know, there's no, set number. We've gotten interest from a group that could be as small as 2 people to, you know, a huge group that could be as many as 20 people. So, you know, just like, yeah, it depends on the event. Like if it's just like, because we've met with the Boy Scouts, the Eagle Scouts, and it was what, probably 20 or 25 of them. And that was like a Saturday event. You see, so it depends. We've seen, like, based on our experience thus far, we've seen like it just varies with the type of event and the day. But yeah, and the natural requirements, the nature and the requirements.
Okay, great. And does anybody else have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to say that, yes, we did have a number of other agencies. We invited, Parks was there, our super stewards, everybody pitched in to help this program. Everybody was excited about it. So yeah, it was an it was a lot of agencies and that may not have been directly involved, but they were there to support.
Great. I just want to point out something that Pam said that I really think was so powerful about what they did with DEP. And it just really struck me when Pam said DEP listened to us. That's such an important piece, and it's really something that's is just has been important to me and continues to be important to me with working with community members. Like Pam said, Coney Island community knows where it floods. Sam and I have heard this in neighborhoods all over the city, that the community members, they understand, they know where the problem areas are, and they're really there to help us as city folks identify what they need. And something else I want to point out, because Pam has presented earlier with us about what they've done for climate change education. So not only is this our Unity and Community on spring preparedness, but it dovetails nicely with Earth Day coming up on Friday, is that they've engaged for many years now with kitchen table conversations, which is just a way for them to let their neighbors know about climate change, and they are climate change educators in their community. And again, Sam and I are lucky enough to be in a lot of communities throughout the city, and that you're the influencers, and we really wanted to take this time to acknowledge your work and to say how much we value what you do and how exciting it is to see it manifested in something that mitigated the effects of a storm on your community, which of course for us working in community preparedness is what we live for. So really want to thank you for highlighting it, and thank you for your work. We do have some other events coming up, but I am not a big fan of putting things into the chat. So we are going to follow up with an email with the links that Shri was talking about, and the video links separated out so that you can view it at your leisure. And that is probably not going to happen until sometime next week because of the way the person who set up this Zoom meeting isn't here. So we'll be able to access everybody's address, but we'll be actually putting it in our newsletter. So we would love it if you haven't signed up for the newsletter. I am going to put in just 3 things. Okay, I lied. I'm going to put in a couple of things about our upcoming events, but this will also be, whoops, never mind. The links aren't coming through. We'll send it out in a separate email, as well as it will be in the community preparedness newsletter that I can.
And Jill, we did get a question in the chat when you do have a chance.
Okay. Oh, from Kate Boycourt. Thank you, Kate. This sounds like a great program. Are there grants for small orgs to participate? I guess that would be for Shri, and that is our newsletter sign up there in the chat.
Thank you. No, no, there are not currently any grants to participate in the program. to participate with the Harbor Protectors Program. But I mean, that sounds like a good, you know, something that we could definitely look into, because I know we're doing other things with our GI program as far as grants. So that's something we can definitely talk about internally and provide at a later time.
I do know that Citizens Committee, you know, is still accepting applications for their neighborhood grant program. And I'm just going to see if I can find that, because this is something, and I know that they were very active after Ida. That's how I kind of how they came on my radar. And they, hold on one second. I think I can find that. There you go. And they are interested they're interested in all kinds of neighborhood improvement grants, but she was also very much in support of getting grants for this type of program, whether it's climate change or emergency preparedness, emergency planning. And they're good grants. I mean, $5,000, sometimes they're $10,000. And I'm almost to that page. All right, Kate, if you could, I'll make sure that that link is, Kate, you can email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I'll send you that link once, because I don't have it quite.
I just want to say thank you to Kate since she's on, because she was always a part of the workshops, whether she was with the Waterfront Alliance or Environmental Defense Fund. They were always a part of these workshops that we conducted for our community.
Thanks, Pam.
Okay.
And
well,
I just,
go ahead,
and may
George.
I just, we just left out one important member of our presenting, and the very first presenter was the clergy. We left the clergy out, and I think that he was there to begin the program off. So I want to give them credit, and once you get in the churches, sometimes you get to the people. So I want to just mention Reverend Mason, who led us off at the beginning of the program. So thank you, Reverend Mason.
So that's a
And,
great,
that's a
tip.
great resource. That's a great resource to tap into, to get the word out into the community.
Thank you for mentioning that, because they have, you know, most houses of worship have youth groups. They've got, you know, a lot of them now are doing pre-K, so they're really able to tap into a whole
Right.
family system there. So thank you for
Right.
mentioning that. Okay, so look for, I'm going to stop the recording.